guys, long time no see. So I wasn't planning on doing a reading, but I had the strong urge. I got the sense that I was meant to do a reading today, and it just so happens that it's quite a significant day in terms of politics. So I'm not surprised that I was called to do a reading. I get the general sense that a lot of people are worried right now, which, is stating the obvious. But I think this reading is meant to provide some reassurance. I definitely get the feeling that everything is exactly how it's supposed to be in terms of how the universe is playing things out, right? I talk about the universe lining up dominoes. We know that Pluto is in Aquarius. We know that there's going to be political changes, political shifts. We're also going to get senses of over the next sort of I don't even know how long Pluto's in Aquarius. It's like years, right? 17 years, 14 years, something like that. 7 to 14 years, 21 years. I don't know. Look it up. It's a long time. And yeah, there's going to be political shifts. There's going to be societal shifts. There's going to be shifts in attitude to how we think of ourselves collectively. This is all because Aquarius is a very, very political and would you say like societal sign? It thinks about the collective, it thinks about what's good for everybody. So we're going to see big shifts, and I'm not going to assign any preference for any political parties, any countries. I want to be very, very neutral during this reading because I don't want to get into those debates. In fact, actually, as I'm saying that, a big chunk of advice that I'm receiving is talking about I don't want to say staying silent. It is coming through as staying silent, but it's not like you shouldn't speak up. It's more like play your cards close to your chest. So I think it's very easy when there's a lot happening kind of online that we get quite drawn into it, right? And sometimes we can find ourselves debating things with family or friends or debating things on the internet. And a lot of the time it doesn't change anything, right? We just get ourselves annoyed and worked up, and that other person still believes whatever it is that they wanted to believe in the first place. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't put our own opinion out there, or we shouldn't give people other pieces of evidence if we feel like they're not seeing the whole picture, right? There is something to be said about informing people. So I'm not saying that we should just kind of like shut up and let things happen. I'm not saying that at all. The way it's coming through for me is more like High Priestess energy. So when we look at the High Priestess card, she knows but she doesn't say, right? And she conveys a lot without words. Her silence speaks a lot. So there is a lot of worth in staying silent. I do wonder if there's going to be something that we see where perhaps someone's audio isn't working, perhaps we're seeing the video but not hearing the audio, or perhaps somebody's meant to do a speech but they just stand there and they don't say anything, right? It's like silence speaks volumes. And I was thinking about people in my life and in my family and people who I've met who they don't have to say anything. Like, you can tell what mood they're in, and they can look at someone and you get that feeling. So for example, like my mom and my granddad were very quiet people, but they didn't really always have to say something. You could look at them and you would get a sense about how they felt about what was going on, right? They said a lot just in that High Priestess way of kind of conveying emotion through vibes, right? And I'm not like this at all. I've got a huge amount of air in my chart, so I will say what's on my mind, right? I speak my truth, and I'm not afraid to say what I want to say. I think there's a lot of power in being able to do that. Okay, and I definitely don't like the idea of like suppression or taking away people's right to have an opinion. There's a lot that could be said about freedom of speech at the moment, right? And who gets to say what and when they get to say that, and whether it's appropriate to be able to say exactly what's on your mind at any given moment, and whether or not there should be repercussions for that. This is an ongoing debate. It's an ongoing topic, right? That is very evident in the media at the moment. But this is more like, I'm thinking about a boss I used to work for, and she was quite difficult. If she was in a bad mood, like, she would come into work and she would just give us these really negative vibes without even saying anything, or she'd say one or two words and we just knew that she was not in a good mood that day, and everybody would be quiet, everybody would keep out of the way, and the vibe of the whole place would change based on whatever mood that specific boss was in, and they were a Scorpio. So you can have Scorpio energy that's really, really good, like high priestess energy, or you can have Scorpio energy that's really, really bad. And I think what's coming across is conveying something without speech, right? Because conveying something energetically seems to be coming through. But also this idea of kind of the high priestess, she does play her cards close to her chest, right? She doesn't give out information willy-nilly. It's kind of on a needs to know basis. And I'm thinking about as well about like online you get these people who we used to call them trolls, right? Don't feed the trolls. It's that sort of thing. It's like don't encourage them, don't feed the trolls by, if people are online and they're looking to, provoke people and get into an argument, and some people just like crave the drama. It's like don't feed them. Not only that, but it's coming through like almost like my guides are correcting me and they're saying it's not trolls, it's bots. And the reason why they're saying this, whether or not that is an actual bot, like a bot just regurgitating and it's there to promote some agenda, like an actual AI bot making these posts, or if it's just people who are not thinking for themselves. It's almost that their response is robotic, right? So they're talking about people being like bots because, they'll go into the comments and they'll all say the same comment because it's like they've been programmed to have that response, or they'll all make the same joke, or they'll say the same political slogan, and it's like they can't think for themselves and they don't stop and kind of question anything, or they don't have anything original to say. And so it's kind of like, why are you wouldn't talk to a bot, right? Maybe some people would. They're like, yeah, I'm really into chat GPT at the moment. But think about that as well, like uh, okay, my guides are making jokes. You know those old adverts where it's like, you wouldn't steal a car, you wouldn't steal a handbag, so online piracy is a crime. It's saying like you wouldn't feed a bot is what they're saying. It's like you wouldn't waste your time or energy on something that isn't real, right? So it's like, don't if people are acting like robots, like don't engage with them. If people are, yeah, I think that's pretty much the message. It's kind of like, if you act like a child, I'll treat you like a child. If you act like a bot, I'm going to ignore you. Sort of like that. Um, and that's not to say, again, I'm not talking about any political leaning. I think you get this on all sides of the internet. You get the people who are like kind of indoctrinated by whatever accounts they follow and whatever political take they've got, where it's almost like they refuse to see the other side and they've been conditioned to have an automated response. So don't worry about you being the person who changes that. I feel like the universe will give them their own lessons in time, right? They will figure things out for themselves eventually. And so it's kind of like there's a hair on there. How embarrassing. It's sort of like mind your own business, kind of, or tend your own garden. I think that's a better way of putting it, where when things are going on and it's making big news, and this has been a crazy couple of weeks on the internet. I've been in that rabbit hole myself, and you get to the point where you get like analysis paralysis and you're just doom scrolling and you don't get anything done and you just feel awful. And there's this thing about water your own garden, like take a step back, take yourself offline, don't engage in the drama. And it's all designed to capture your attention. It's like advertising space, right? If you or clickbait channels. So you get people who are they'll say controversial things because it engages people, whether positively or negatively, and then they get the views and then they get the advertising revenue. So it's like there's this there's been a lot about social media, for example, like Meta, TikTok has been in the news a lot. Red Note is the new one that's in the news this week. So you can look into that if you're not familiar with what's been going down. But it's been a roller coaster. And there's this kind of currency of attention, like your attention is worth money. So remember this, you, the viewer, your attention is worth money. Right now, you're spending time with me. I'm not earning money from it, but Thank you for giving me your attention. It's valuable, right? I respect that. And so don't waste your time in places that don't deserve it, right? Think of your attention span as revenue. So if you're wasting your life doom scrolling on the internet, that's wasted revenue for you. So you can take that attention and you can put it into other things. So for example, I am tidying my house today, and that's much more practical and much more useful and much more valuable to me than sitting on TikTok or watching the news for an hour, right? And I need to take my own advice on this more. I've been awful this week, but I've been a bit poorly. So when you're poorly and you're a little bit bedridden, you've not got anything else to do, and then you find yourself going deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole. It's like, oh, I drag myself back out of there, the pit of despair that is the internet. But yeah, hopefully this is good advice for you guys. I think it's obvious, right? It's like if the internet's upsetting you, take a step back. But sometimes we need someone to say it, to be like, oh yeah, I actually need to do that. But again, even though, sometimes people just realize this for themselves because they get to that pit and they're like, oh yeah, maybe I should take a break. But yeah, I think it is worth reminding people because it's been a very eventful January, and I think sometimes we just need to remember that we can switch off and give our attention to more valuable things. For example, our children, I don't know, our elderly parents who might be a bit lonely. Or another thing as well, actually, really interesting. I did see, coincidentally, a TikTok of this guy who was really upset. He lived in somewhere in California, right? Which California's had some really difficult things that they've been dealing with in January. But this guy was saying he was talking to his mum and he hung up on her for the first time. And it was because she has basically slipped into a side of the internet that he didn't agree with, right? It's sort of like, how people talk about COVID vaccines and they have strong opinions on those. And so he found that her politics had shifted. This lovely mother who'd always been a friend to him and he'd always seen eye to eye with, had suddenly shifted into a difficult political group than he was. And he couldn't stand it, right? And he didn't know what to do. And I thought, well, how awful to lose a relationship like that. That's his mother, right? Who he's always had a good relationship with. And how awful to lose someone over their political views. And then it's like, but how important are these political views in day-to-day life? What is more important is having those strong family bonds and, looking for the things that we have in common. And I think this is another message as well that's coming through from my guides about look for what we have in common. For example, I've been watching I don't know how I got onto this side of the internet, but I've been watching a young Russian girl, and she's just kind of vlogging around Russia and talking about the people she meets and talking about Russian stereotypes and how some of them are true and some of them are not true. But she's just a teenage girl, right? Or a young woman on the internet, and she's like a young woman that you would find anywhere. I think you can talk about the globalization and how certain things are common in all countries, no matter kind of what the politics are of that country. And so yeah, I think there's something really lovely about that. And online this week, we've had Americans leaving TikTok and going to a Chinese app called Red Note, and this wonderful bonding that's been happening between Chinese people and Americans. And so I think if you look at these big countries, America, Russia, China, and there's other countries as well that I've not named yet, but who are also hugely important and influential. But these big three major world players, right? And the opportunities for not seeing them as an enemy or not seeing them as something that is scary, but just seeing these places as land masses with people in who also care about their elderly parents, or who also feel joy when they hold their baby, or who also want to hug their friends, or who also feel lonely. There are shared human experiences that go beyond nationalism, and it's important to remember that. And I think we've seen that this week, and that is very, very Aquarian to teach us those lessons. So hold on to that, hold on to the fact that humans can bond even in difficult circumstances. What else do I have for you guys? Um, Definitely reassurance coming through. Oh, so going to my notes, I've got politics is pantomime. So it's like this message came from a guide. It was politics is pantomime. Again, it's just trying to get your attention, right? It's like, look over here. Um, it's designed to draw your attention from the things that are important. And of course, politics is important. I'm not saying it's not, but when you can't do anything about that in the moment. So, for example, if you're joining a march or a protest, or you're actually signing up to vote, these are all practical things that you can do based on the actions that you feel like you can take regarding your own political views. And again, I'm not swinging any messages in any direction, right? But if there's something practical that you can do, of course, go out and do it. I'm not telling you not to. But rather than wasting your time doom scrolling or debating with people who are never going to change their minds anyway, what is important to you is spending time with family, spending time with friends, learning a new skill, going out and getting some exercise, all these things that are good for you, that can completely get sucked away from you in those kind of rabbit holes of social media. And I'm not talking about any one platform, right? This is across the board on the internet, or even not even on the internet. This could be the TV shows you watch, or the news channels you watch, or the movies you watch. It's any sort of media can be propaganda, and it normally is. Propaganda is a really strong word, but it's not like it only comes from one place, right? Propaganda isn't something that's exclusive to one media from one country. It's everywhere all the time. Whenever somebody creates a piece of art, they have something to say. I'm creating this video now with the intention of reassuring people, hopefully calming things down a little bit, reminding people of what's important. And that's my intention, is to help people by doing this video. You could call it propaganda. Again, I'm not trying to push anyone in any sort of political direction. Who you vote for, what you believe in, is totally up to you. But it is an extension of my opinions, and by watching it you are being influenced to a degree to my opinions. You might agree, you might disagree, but you're thinking about what I'm saying, and therefore it is me getting inside your mind. So switch off if you're uncomfortable with that. I'm not forcing you to watch this, but hopefully I'm giving you food for thought that you can draw your own conclusions about. I've got a lot of Taylor Swift songs coming through, so there could be something going on with Taylor Swift, or there could be somebody who's called Taylor that's important. Maybe somebody needs to go to the tailor and get a new suit. Maybe something's going to be very swift. I don't know. But some of the songs that came through, there was that one where she's like, you poke the bear until the claws come out, and then you find something to wrap your noose around. There's nothing like a mad woman. What a shame she went mad. You made her like that. So that one came on this morning when I was kind of walking home from dropping my kids off at school. And then also anti-hero. It must be exhausting always rooting for the anti-hero. So this is coming through a little bit like, because when you're rooting for someone, again, I can associate this with politics. When you're rooting for someone, when you're very engaged, or it could be a football team, right? It's like you're expending energy, all that excitement, all the fear, all the engagement that you're investing in a certain outcome or a certain person. That's all energy, right? And that energy, again, even if it's just your thoughts are energy. When you think, your brain cells activate, right, with energy. So all this stuff can be exhausting. So again, just pay attention to what who you're rooting for, what you're rooting for, and why you're rooting for it, and whether it's worth the level of investment of your time that you're giving it, right? And I'm not saying don't root for a certain person or a certain thing. Just keep it in balance, work-life balance. Remember that you're important too. You're the most important person to you, right? Yes, there might be some celebrities or politicians or football teams or whatever that you're very heavily invested in, and yes, it's important to you, but do they care about you as much as you care about them? Who cares about you? It should be you, right? It should be you, your family, your friends, co-workers, the people in your life. And so remember that they are worth more of your time than anything on your TV screen or phone screen. vigilante shit came through. I used to think that I was made of stone. That's Dua Lipa, Love Again. The reason why I've made a note of this song is there's all this stuff, which, I'm sorry, I'm just getting some cards from the floor. Didn't have enough space on my table. So there's all these cards coming through about like stones, like the standing stones, passage. There's something about these two next to each other where it's looking very like stuck or rooted to the spot. There's this here as well where she's literally coming to life. So I used to think I was made out of stone. So I always like these two together because it's like she's completely stuck, right? Maybe she has got on those lenses because she's watching the news, right? The lenses that we consume media through, your phone lens, if you're not getting the reference. I'm sure you are. And then here it's kind of like, but she's coming back to life, right? And then it's kind of like finding the passage through the stones. I don't know. So I made a note of that just because it seemed like there was a message there somehow. Where have I put something down that I shouldn't have put down, haven't I? There we go. But there's all this thing about, as well, about like, you see how she's like on a stone? She's like on her, it's almost like I know I'm alone on this hill, but I'm gonna die on this hill kind of thing. It's like I stand here, but I stand here alone, something like that. And then here as well, look, you see? It's like I'm standing on this rock. This is my, like standing on your soapbox perhaps and feeling quite alone there. I'm not sure. But yeah, I made a note of that song as well. Dua Lipa, Love Again. I used to think I was made out of stone. The first song that came through, so I'm just throwing things around. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the timestamp. Let me just show you. That talks about progression for me. That talks about things are moving forwards. You know, time is moving forwards. There's no hiccups. Everything's moving slowly. If I see 1, 3, 2, 4, it means that there's kind of like this back and forth, you know, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of thing. But 1, 2, 3, 4 is a really good sign. And there was a little love heart there as well. So the song that came through first for you guys is The Middle by Jimmy Eats World. And there's something about all the trophies, right? And then it says Bleed American as well, which I was like, is that significant in some sort of way? I don't want to read too much into that. There's nothing negative coming through. It's almost like whatever's going on, tend your own garden first, right? Whatever's happening in the world, almost like go outside, touch some grass, get grounded, and look at the practical things that you can do in your own life. You know, whether that is just checking in on an elderly neighbour to make sure they've got enough toilet roll or sugar or whatever it is, or, you know, maybe you want to donate to a food bank. It's like, what can you do locally and what can you do that's going to make a real impact rather than just shooting off a few opinions online that, you know, most people are just going to scroll past or ignore anyway, apart from like random bots or, you know, people you don't know trying to fight with you. It's like, what is the point? So yeah. And it's like, if you're going to say something, say it to the right people, talk to your local representatives, you know, talk to the local media, set up a support group, you know, do things that are, I'm really getting like grassroots, like do things that are immediately meaningful to your immediate surroundings. Because if we all do that, if we all work locally, if we all work to make our immediate existence better, the whole world is going to get better, right? If everybody is just inside their house suffering alone, like looking at the internet, then we're not going to make any significant changes. So, and again, I'm not talking about, I mean, if you want to join a union, I love the idea of unions, but I know different countries, different places have different opinions on that. So again, I'm not trying to kind of like push any political agenda. I'm just trying to give people practical advice if they're feeling really, scared, or if they're feeling really low, or if they're feeling really helpless, because no matter, when we get very polarized politics, no matter what side you take, or even if you find yourself in the middle, because that song is like Jimmy in the middle, right? No, the middle, Jimmy Eats World. The middle's the worst place to be because it's like when you sat on that fence, you piss off both sides. Yeah, when you get a very polarized debate, you know, men versus women, man versus bear, you know, left versus right politics, you know, it's almost like pick a side, or or you're out on your own. You know, you're almost forced to make you're forced into a polarized position yourself, and that is really unhealthy. It's like, stick to the middle ground, take it from a Libra, stick to the middle ground. And yeah, so I don't know, somebody may find themselves feeling very alone in the position that they've taken, but it's kind of like that's your power, right? You having a unique view. Look at this Aquarius energy right in the middle with the star. This Aquarius view is the power, is where your power comes from. You know, harnessing both sides is where your power comes from. Maybe somebody is some sort of advocate. Maybe somebody is a peacekeeper. Maybe somebody wants to get into some kind of career to do with peacekeeping or advocacy. Really cool stuff. Love to see it. Okay, what else as well? That hair's back. It's just trying to embarrass me. I'm sorry, guys. Again, I am tidying my house, so it's a work in progress. Okay, so where do we start then? We start with some kind of betrayal. The actual cards that are on the table, they are talking about some kind of like someone who feels backstabbed, or a situation where there's been some kind of betrayal. It's the Ten of Swords. It always talks about like Caesar, right? Itu brute, and he gets stabbed in the back by the Senate and all that kind of stuff. Again, I'm not foreshadowing anything here, but it feels like this has already happened. So there's been a betrayal that we are starting the reading with. This has already happened. There's already these feelings of betrayal. There's these feelings of something that went really badly. There's feelings of hurt. There's feelings of defeat. However, there's something that is coming alive from this situation. There's also this thing here, which is there's something to do with these two coming together, because I noticed this when the cards were coming out. I had these two whales like this, which is the Queen of Cups and the King of Cups. And then I shuffle the cards, and it's crazy to me that they've come back out together. Like, I separated them and they came back out together. So there's some kind of meaning of that. But when I initially saw them, can you see how this whale's coming up and this whale's going down? I initially saw them as coming together like this, almost like this meeting in the middle, talking about the middle again, right? And so I'm almost seeing that imagery of like these two coming face to face. I'm sorry, my hands are really dry as well. I forgot to put moisturizer on before I started the reading. I'm scruffy today. I wasn't expecting to do a reading. I tried to put nail varnish on, but because my nails are purple from my shampoo. Anyway, so yeah, there's something about these two coming face to face, but it's almost like this one's not saying anything, it's just observing. And then this one looks like it's singing, or it looks like it's speaking, but there's no, the way I'm seeing it like psychically, intuitively, is that there's no words coming out. It's almost like you go to speak and you stumble your words, or you go to sing and your voice croaks. It's this silence that happens, right? Again, it could be like somebody, I don't know, maybe someone's singing at the inauguration but the mic's off, or there's something happens to the audio feed so you can see this person singing but you don't hear them singing. And I'm not saying that's a specific thing that's going to happen. I'm just trying to give you an idea of the scenario that I'm seeing, where it's kind of like the sound isn't there, but there doesn't need to be sound. And it could be someone is very physically expressive. So for example, if you saw somebody doing interpretive dance, they can express a lot through their movements, and you don't necessarily need to hear what they're saying to understand the emotion that they're carrying. You know, if you see somebody and you mute the video and this person's ranting and shouting, you can tell the mood of that speech, right? But if somebody is very, very peaceful and you know, placid, you know, you can see the emotion. If someone's very loving, you can see the emotion. So I don't know if that's going to be something that comes into effect. And again, it could be something that we see in our personal lives a lot. But then we come to the King of Cups and the Queen of Cups. There's something that's coming and going. It's like because water means, right, let me try and explain the messaging system that I have with my guides. So water talks about consciousness. It also talks about emotions and emotional exploration, right? Sort of sometimes you need to go away and think and spend some time by yourself to process things. And so there's this coming up for air and then going back down into that more intuitive space that seems to be happening here, even though this is two separate people, right? Queen and King of Cups. I'm seeing this as like a perfect match, like two people who are almost identical. Like they are they are a pair, but there's this process that's this up and down. This I'm not seeing it as like emotional up and downs. I'm not seeing it as like something that's an emotional roller coaster. I'm seeing it more as like coming up for air, and air talking about communication and language, and then going back away to process this. So it's like coming face to face with someone, talking to them, sharing experiences, opinions, having a conversation, and then going away and kind of meditating on that and thinking about it, and processing that conversation, and then meeting again. So there could be this coming together, spending time apart process that's happening, possibly with two people, possibly as individuals, but where we're encountering like-minded people. The other thing about this situation, whatever this is and whoever this is for, and again, it could be collective consciousness, it could be a group situation. Whales are very, very big mammals, and they talk to me about secrets. They talk to me about internalized feelings and emotions. So it's almost like meeting somebody who has the same big feelings that they're hiding as you. So these two people seem like they're maybe not speaking very much. Again, I've got this thing about silence, but the vibes match. Like sometimes you can sit in a room with somebody and you just vibe with them, even though you don't necessarily share many words. It's kind of like you can look across the room and know that person's on the same page as you just by their expression. So this feels like a very intuitive and trusting and almost non-verbal relationship. It sort of makes me think about, how when children are learning to play, one of the first things that toddlers start to do when they start to socialize is that they start to play next to each other. And so they might not necessarily play with each other. It depends on the social development of the child. But sometimes they find comfort from playing side by side, and they might be playing with completely different toys. But, just being in the same room is the social experience. And you also find this with people who are perhaps nonverbal, or who have learning difficulties, or who are not neurotypical. You get this kind of side by side play. Whether it's just you're in the same room as your family, but you're all on phones, but the mood is nice, right? It's like you enjoy being around each other even if you're not communicating, something like that. And so there's also something about the fireflies. It's really interesting as well that these are all from the same deck. This is, let me just find it. Sorry, I threw my, oh no, I'm knocking everything over now. I've thrown, well, this is why I'm tidying. But it's this deck here. I don't know if there's something about the name. Maybe somebody's called MJ. The last name as well, Cullinane. There could be somebody who has these names, but I was really, really pulled to use this deck, and I don't always vibe with it. So again, it could be that you're spending time with somebody that you don't normally vibe with, and all of a sudden the energy's working. Maybe you understand somebody, but it's quite sudden that you realize that you're on the same wavelength, something like that. But yeah, there's this thing about whatever the betrayal in the past was, there's something that's transforming, and it's turning these people into like the kings and queens. Right? It's like there's something in the stars. There's something in the wind. I can feel it rolling in. That's a Lana Del Rey song, and I keep getting it with this card. So yeah, there's something about everybody's own power and own authority in their own lives. It's like being the king and queen of your own home, or being the king and queen of your own life, having that feeling of control and authority over your own body and actions and choices. Again, going back to this thing about not needing words, there's something about, because here you've got joy in music, right? Like listening to the music, and here this person's like playing the music. You see they've got like a little pipe. So somebody could be a musician, and there could be something about expressing something in music that you can't convey in words. It's like you can't find the right words, but you can find the right sounds. There could be something about a song that somebody wanted to send somebody, or like maybe a mixtape that never got sent. There's something about like, I wrote you a song, but you'll never hear it. I think there was like an Olivia O'Brien song there that said something similar. And so I'm seeing that again. It's almost like I don't know if you can see the similarity of these. It's like this is the one singing, or this is the one playing the music, right? This is the one up in the air, like offering the cup. Like they're the one making this. Because whales as well, whales make sound, right? People listen to whale sounds. So it's like a vibration. Something about the vibration. Music makes a vibration. And then the queen seems to be the one listening to this. It's like, how sound travels in water. If you put your head under water, sometimes the sound sounds different. So it's like getting really emotionally affected by a song. But this also could talk about deep consciousness, right? Your dreams, your intuition, and where this is calling you to, where the whale sound is calling you to, if you want to talk about it as being kind of like a calling in life. Because then we get warrior woman. Have you answered your deepest calling? And again, this talks about a truth, right? It's kind of like being armed with the truth, but not necessarily speaking it. It could be talking about having your facts straight before you say something. So it's kind of like, I don't feel the need to. Maybe it's like you go and see your family and they've all got these random ideas of like, I have been deep into the rabbit hole of like random conspiracy theories, and I quite enjoy like allowing myself to go there and be like, how about this random conspiracy theory? Doesn't necessarily mean I believe it. It's just that I like debating and I like discussing and I like having mad conversations. And so there's a difference between floating an idea and believing a fact, right? I feel like I'm capable of both floating an idea and believing a fact. And so this is that. It's like that, right? It's like being armed with facts, being armed with evidence, being able to say, let me send you the link to where I read that, rather than the way I just go into work and I'm like, hey, I saw this thing on TikTok. I don't know if it's real or not, but I like the idea that it is. It's kind of, I'm quite self-aware of where I'm getting my information. Again, I went to university. I did the whole like check your sources thing, you cite your sources. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think it can be quite hard with the internet these days to actually find legitimate sources and to understand the difference between what says it's a legitimate source and what actually is a legitimate source. I found this myself where, I've come across things that say that they're peer-reviewed journals, but they're not. Or it'll say it's a peer-reviewed journal, but it'll be, or somebody will be like, oh, there was this thing done by this university, and they found this, but it's like, well, how big was the clinical trial? And there'll be like 12 people, and it's like, okay, well, you can infer something from that, but 12 people isn't exactly representative of a huge group of people. So maybe they need to rerun that trial with more people involved to get really solid evidence. So it's like, not all evidence is weighed equally. It's kind of look a little bit deeper, question a little bit further, and just because something says it comes out of a university doesn't necessarily mean it is. I don't know. Then, interestingly enough, we then go over to this card, which it feels very topical because it's red fox. And I knew we were going to see a fox because when I initially was drawn to this deck, I was seeing the foxes that were in this deck. So I knew we were going to see a fox. So I don't know, red fox is sounding to me like a code word, right? It's like code name red fox. And I don't know if that's a real thing or not because I have no idea. I don't know. I can't tell the difference between something I heard in a movie, something that's real, and something that my own brain invented. So don't come at me if this is a thing. Like, government, if you're watching and I have just said some kind of code word, I'm messing around with cars on the internet. I don't know what I'm talking about. So anyway, but it also reminded me of, because it does look kind of, I guess, geisha, right? It kind of looks, I don't know, definitely looks Asian, but like, thinking about kind of what's been going on with TikTok and all the Americans going over to, it's called Red Note. It's like another social media app. Red Note, Red Fox, Strategy. I don't know who owns Red. There you go. Who owns Red Note? Who has stocks and shares in Red Note? If it's the same people who have stocks and shares in Meta and TikTok, then maybe that's interesting. A little bit like how, a lot of people left Twitter/X and went on to like Blue Sky or Threads. Maybe messing around with one social media platform and making people think that it's going down, creates a rush to use another platform. And, if you invest at the right time, maybe you get a lot of money from spinning some kind of yarn like that. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm calling random theories, right? I don't know. But it's what I'm saying is more of a, maybe that's the thing, right? It's like, where does the money go? Whenever you're asking something, it's like, who benefits financially from this? Who gets power and who gets money from this situation? Who benefited from what just occurred, right? And that can also tell you a lot. It's like I really like Miss Marple books, and she says there's only like so many motivations why someone would do something. Is it for love? Is it for money? Like, there's only so many human motivations that cause people to do certain things. So fear can be another one. I don't know. Anyway, there seems to be something about, can you see how the fox is being kept at bay? Like, there's almost this protection, this barrier between the fox. Foxes can indicate thievery. They also do indicate cunning and strategy. They can be quite a Gemini energy for me. But yeah, there's this kind of, I want to look at this. I want to get to this. I want to get to the thing below. We don't know the intentions, but then there's this barrier, right? There's this spikiness that's coming from the porcupine in this case, but then this umbrella that's kind of hiding or, keeping this woman out of view. So do you see how there's the barrier there? And it's interesting that those two cards should come out together. So it could be talking about your firewall. It could be talking about your own self-defense mechanisms. Keeping things secret, maybe not saying everything that you think on the internet, but keeping some things, within. I don't know. But then there's something about the magic stream Okay, it's giving me a couple of things, this card, as soon as I picked it up. One thing is, because, there's a certain billionaire who's been in the news a lot this week as well. A couple of them, actually. But there's one who's associated with this song where it says, "My magical and that's what I'm thinking of. When I was a lad, I addled my dad. Wanna be when I grew up." So as soon as I picked up the card, it made me think of that. My magical and so there could be something there with that. What I was mainly seeing was how water can get through barriers very, very easily. If you've ever had any kind of leak or plumbing problem in your house, you know that water gets everywhere very, very fast. It will find the tiniest little crack and it will leak through. So there could be something about leaks. It's making me think of like WikiLeaks. But if there's some kind of defenses, that if this was a paper kind of, not an umbrella, what are they called, like, not a sombrero, oh my goodness, what's the word for it? I can't think. Let me know in the comments if you know the word I'm trying to think of. But there's, the paper umbrella, water's going to pour through that quite easily. It's not going to offer any resistance. Same with these kind of spiky defenses. The water is going to find its way through. So there's something about emotions, how emotions can get through barriers, right? Emotions or intuition can get through defenses, perhaps. It could also talk about a leak. Also, I'm seeing the rainbow. Can you see the rainbow on the card? This was making me think of visually. It's funny because I kept on getting rainbow from my own deck. I kept on getting rainbow messages, and I knew there was something to this because I was getting the word rainbow a lot, and I stepped outside my house and there was when you get rainbows in puddles, when there's oil in a puddle, and there was a rainbow outside my house on my doorstep, and I was like, there's a rainbow. And I remember walking up the road and thinking, if that is a message, send me another rainbow. And immediately I found another further up the road, nothing to do with the original little spill of oil, another oil spill and another rainbow. And so then I'm walking up the road and I'm thinking this to myself, and I see a massive one. I never see them anymore. I used to see them all the time when I was little because we had like more like petrol cars. But yeah, really, really weird to see that, the rainbows when you get the oil in water 3 times in a row. So I knew, especially because the third one was so big, I knew this was a message about the rainbow. And then I saw on social media, again, I don't know what's real and not what's not real anymore. I'm like, what even is reality? But I saw this thing about SpaceX and the rocket, and part of it had broken off and burned up in the atmosphere, and it was like this massive light show in the sky. It was almost like a rainbow of like a firework rainbow streaking across the sky. And I was like, I wonder if that's the rainbow that we're telling me about. So seeing this rainbow is also making me think of that. So there could definitely be something about the person that's associated with all those things. I don't know. He's in the news a lot. Why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't he be in the collective consciousness? Why wouldn't he be in this reading? Now we go to the star, the one ring circus, and the power. So what I'm really seeing here is somebody who's standing alone. And I'm not saying it's that person that I've been talking about. I don't know what this is. New topic. So somebody who's standing alone. And it's kind of like the running this one-man show, this one-man circus. I want to say it's not the person who I was just mentioning or just referring to. It could be somebody else entirely. It could be you. But there's something about this. This is this person's power to be independent. The star card, again, we've got this very Aquarian all of a sudden. The star is an Aquarian card. It talks about healing. It talks about having the spotlight on you, being recognized for your achievements. It talks about aiming high. It talks about really seeing your dreams and going for them and achieving them. So there's this really Aquarian energy, but kind of like doing it alone, achieving your dreams alone. But also with the circus thing, one ring circus, it's kind of like being seen to do this and putting on a show. And it's kind of like, but that's almost the power. Being independent, which again is very Aquarian, is the power. There could be something as well about like star power, like maybe having star power, having influence, but also like if you think about a star as being solar energy, right? It's like stars are suns, and you can get like solar powered things. It could be something about solar power. Now, as we move forward in the reading, we see this thing about, again, it could be cars, right? Solar panel cars. I don't know. When I was a lad, I had all my dad. Again, I'm not coming out in support or defense of anything. I'm just reading cards and telling you what it makes me think of. I don't have any conclusions to draw from any of this. It's always interesting to see how things play out, because I know that when I'm channeling, when I'm getting messages, I know that I'm getting things, right? I know that what I'm seeing is going to come up in the news, or I'm going to run into it in real life. It's going to be significant, but it takes me a while to see it. And it never plays out the way I'm expecting it to. So I'm trying not to make predictions so much as tell you the imagery or the patterns that I'm seeing. And we'll see what happens. Now, there's something about this one, right, who's like the one that was prickly and defensive, and they had the guard up. And then this thing about something getting through. But it's like, now we see them here. It's a porcupine here, it's a hedgehog here, but I'm seeing it as the same character. This prickly person. The Four of Swords talks about resting, thinking things over, thinking things through, because it's swords. It's like, I need time to think about this. But again, it's almost like this thing about having the defense up, right, with the spikiness, like facing upwards. It's almost like I'll put my defense up so that I can get some sleep. I'll put my firewall up so I can get some sleep. But then can you see how it's snow here, which will melt into water? And then all these logs, right? Logs and wood are permeable. So if that does turn into water, it is going to get through there. So it's like the emotions are going to get through somebody's thoughts. So it seems like the emotions are the key to getting past somebody's logical or intellectual or defensive thought patterns. It's like appeal to the emotions, right? Don't appeal to the logic, appeal to the emotions, because the emotions are more immediate, they're more effective in whatever this circumstance is. And then there's something going on about The Three of Fire is like the Three of Wands, so it's like waiting for something. So it's like taking a step back, like sleeping on it, waiting to see what happens next. And there seems to be some kind of financial loss here with whatever this is, whatever the circumstances. This is the order of events. Some kind of financial loss, but it's almost like I know there's going to be a financial hit here. I know there's going to be a financial loss because it's the Five of Pentacles, right? So it's a halving of the Ten of Pentacles. So there's maybe a tangling up of finances as well, but there's something about, okay, so less money in the short term, but more money in the long term, or less money now, but more money, like this investment is going to grow kind of thing. So there's definitely something about, I'm wondering about these eggs now, because, you know, people say don't put all your eggs in one basket. It's kind of like don't put all your money on one horse, because these two broken eggs. So the betrayal originally, or the thing that went wrong at the beginning of the reading, which feels like the situation that we start the reading with the broken eggs. I feel like somebody's learned some lessons from that. Sorry, it's a car alarm going off. Yeah, somebody's learned some lessons from that. It's kind of like, well, I'm not going to invest all my money in one thing anymore. I'm going to split my investment, or I'm going to invest in 5 things instead of one thing. Because can you see there's like these 5 chrysalis. So there's something that is evolving. There's something that is really interesting, because then we go into coming to life, right, with this butterfly. It's like there is something that's, it could be like breakthrough acts, like, you know, up and coming artists. So rather than investing in somebody who's like a headline act, so say for example you have money into invest and you were investing it into a singer, it'd be like, well, I could invest into Taylor Swift, or I could invest into Beyonce, but it's going to take my whole investment. Maybe it's like somebody who wants to put on a show, right? It's kind of like, I want to put on a show, but if I get a big headline act like Taylor Swift or Beyonce, it's going to be the whole budget. But if I get 5 smaller acts, like up and coming artists, and then one of them gets big, you know, it's kind of like then that I might get bigger returns on that investment, or I could put on a better show because I've got 5 performers instead of 1 performer. You know, it's going to be more diverse. I'm not 100% sure, but like I say, then you get this kind of like breaking act, or like breaking out or breaking through, coming to life after this investment and like cocooned period, right? The hidden resting, recovery, or planning phase, because this is kind of like waiting for the return on your investment. The three of wands. So yeah, there seems to be some sort of, maybe it's an investment of time as well. It's kind of like, don't put all your time into one thing. Maybe invest your time in multiple things and see which one takes off. Sort of a bit like, I don't know, like if one thing's not working out, you can cut it out and free up that time to invest more heavily on something that is working. So because you can't plan for every eventuality, right? You can't plan for everything that's going to happen in the world, because then we get change in the wind, right? So if you've invested in one thing and that doesn't work out, the winds change. You can invest into something else that is working out, right? So that is very, very Aquarian, because Aquarian energy is about change, right? We've come from Capricorn energy, Pluto in Capricorn for a number of years. Capricorn's a very, very fixed energy. Aquarius is more innovative, so it encourages change. It sees the benefit of change, where, you know, a Capricorn energy, and I'm not saying it's a Capricorn person, because people are made up of all different signs. It's nobody's one sign, but Capricorn energy by itself is very much like, this is the tried and tested method. This has been done before. This works. We're going to continue to invest money in this thing that's proven. Aquarius is like, okay, but maybe that's a bit stagnant. If we do something that's unexpected, if we do something that's innovative, if we do something that's out of the box, you know, we might be the leaders in this thing. So neither one is better than the other. It's just one is more safe and one is more it's not risky. Aquarian energy isn't risky. It's more that it sees the value of change. It sees the value of a shake-up. It sees the value of kind of airing out the dusty old cupboards and making space for new things. So yeah, it's like the change comes in almost as well, like there's something that feels environmental where you can plant seeds and they'll only grow in the right conditions. So when the season changes, when the winds change, you have something that cracks out, whether that's a seed or something else here as well, with it kind of like breaking through the earth, cracking out. So there's something that's growing, right? And it's something that's going to be perfect for this environment. I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit here, because then we get this rock card where it's kind of like not everything can succeed in this environment, especially if it's something about doing something on your own or doing something innovative that stands out from the crowd, or that perhaps draws a lot of attention but doesn't get you very much support, right? There's something about being very unique but doing it alone here. But then it's kind of like suddenly having a lot of growth and suddenly this working really, really well. Perhaps it's talking about being in a certain field. So you could go into an oversaturated market, an oversaturated field, and not do very well because there's so many competitors. Where if you do something that is very unique and original, yes, it might be a slow start. Yes, it might be a very niche field, but it could really, really draw like it could really do very well because you're the only person offering that service, right? You don't have to appeal to the whole world. You only have to appeal to enough people to succeed in that field, something like that. But it seems like somebody's doing very, very well because perhaps they have endurance, perhaps because I've been seeing squirrel a lot. Squirrels to me talk about saving for a rainy day, so there could be something about really tightening your belt, or managing your money very effectively now so that you have a lot of growth in the future because you endure a difficult period, if we're talking about finances, especially with like changes in the winds. You can talk about like the stock market crash, or the problems with the housing market, or the problems with the banking crisis, and all these different things that have happened kind of globally, where something that was a good investment suddenly loses a lot of value. So again, just make sure that you are investing wisely, and yeah, and just having a lot of options, because you only need one investment to do really well and you're great. Where if you only invest in one thing and that fails, that's all your money gone, if this is financial for anyone. So we have this card here as well with coming to life. We have Four of Wands. Now this really, really looks to me like these two meeting, right? It seems like it could be a situation where two people who are very perhaps leaders in their field, perhaps very, very innovative, perhaps quite secretive. They play the cards close to the chest, but they're vibing well, like they match in some sort of way. Because now we have them in one house, because the Four of Wands talks about tent pegs or cornerstones. So it's kind of like this feels like a meeting of these two. Can you see? Because they're black and white, and these two are black and white, but now they're talking, right? Now the conversation is happening, and now they're finding that they've got a lot of similarities. So there's definitely something about this kind of meeting of minds where the vibes are correct. This person was a match in some sort of way. I don't know who this is or what I'm talking about here, but like I say, and then with this coming encouragement, it does seem like one is bigger than the other in some sort of way. Or like one maybe, whatever the situation is, there may be somebody who has more experience in a field. There may be somebody who's younger. Again, if we're talking like breakthrough acts, it could be somebody who is like an apprentice, or somebody's acting as a patron to somebody else. But like the vibes are the same, even though someone may be older or more experienced. It's like energetically, or their point of view, like they're seeing eye to eye. They're a match. I can't explain that any better than that. It's kind of like they're not the same, but energetically they match. It's not like a situation where one it's not a situation where one person is more powerful and there has more power over the other. I want to say that they have equal power energetically, like in terms of the universe and the way that consciousness and energy, like they match, right? It's the King and Queen of Cups. they match perfectly. But there may be some slight difference. It could be that they meet at some kind of event because this is the Four of Wands. It could be that they were in the same room at the same time, but there's a chance to speak, right? Where I don't know if they've had the chance to talk before, at least not face to face. It could be a situation where, okay, they're giving me a song. I think it's the Olivia O'Brien song that I mentioned before. It's I see you, baby blue, in the corridor, tight jeans, 22. Baby, I adore you. So again, it could be like these two people are in the corridor at the same time. Like, again, it's kind of like maybe, it's like maybe two people who've seen each other on social media a lot and they kind of follow each other, or they just see each other's content and they're like, I like what that person's doing. They get it, our vibe is the same. And then actually meeting that person and being like, oh yeah, we do click. Yeah, we do vibe well. It could again be something about the internet because we've got connection and the biome here. It also could talk about people being from different places. What did I have mentioned? London was mentioned in one of the songs. America. Trying to think if any other song, like any other places were mentioned. Not that I remember. So it could be, this looks like Africa to me. Europe and Africa. Russia up here. What have we got here? This kind of going towards India way, right? So yeah, it could be any of those places. What have we got as well going around the edges? So there's a giraffe. Giraffes talk about Aquarius energy to me. So that would be Africa. Number of different buildings. These look quite kind of European, maybe kind of like Italy way, France perhaps. Just kind of show you the different things that are going on that card. Just in case anything stands out to you personally and means something to you, more butterflies. Yeah, definitely seems like there could be something to do with internet or social media or connectivity, profiles. But it definitely seems like, again, something quite unique, something quite original, and something that's coming to life, something that's breaking through. It's almost like something that's breaking out of the earth's core, right? And then you've also got encouragement and then resistance. So resistance is a strong word. And I've definitely seen these ideals floating around recently. The ideal of, viva la resistance, if that's the side of the political bench that you're on, like, good luck to you. Again, I don't want to push anyone in any certain way, but this is the last card in this reading. It could also be resistance, like resisting the pressure to conform, right? Resisting the pressure to, if we talk about Instagram, for example, right? Instagram, there's the phrase Instagram aesthetic, right? It's like what is popular, what sells well, but that also becomes oversaturated. If you look at the way that every girl has lip fillers now, where originally when it was rarer for girls to have lip fillers, I think you saw some really beautiful looks and it was quite novel and it was quite intriguing and it was quite attractive. But now I think the market's so oversaturated and lips have been so overfilled that I think the novelty is really starting to wear off. You see a lot of girls who are starting to dissolve their fillers. Again, every woman is different. Everybody's going to feel differently about that. But I think you're definitely starting to see that the trend has perhaps reached its saturation point. So again, if this was somebody who was investing money in things, like, trends come and go, right? And once something reaches its saturation point, you can't make any more money out of it. You can talk about this with social media, like a lot of these apps that I've been talking about, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, you can only get a certain number of users onto these apps before you run out of people to get onto these apps, so you can talk about monopolies on the market, saturation point, and also the amount of time we have to spend, our attention with these apps. There's that's the funny thing, right? Because Meta owns 4 of the major apps, and so who are they competing against for our attention if they own all the platforms? You know, like they're getting all the advertising revenue no matter which platform you're using. There's no competition. But then it's so easy to oversaturate that, right? I don't know exactly what I'm saying here. I don't know. I feel like I'm giving business advice to Zuckerberg, right? Which is ridiculous because what the fuck do I know? I've got like I don't even know how many viewers I've got on this channel. How many subscribers do I have on this channel? I literally don't know, but I appreciate you all. I just hope that I'm helping, right? I just hope that I'm, making people's lives slightly better, even if it's just giving them something to think about, which, gets them out of some kind of behavior pattern that they're stuck in. Food for thought, hopefully good vibes. I don't mean to freak people out or anything like that. And again, I'm certainly not trying to control the world or tell anyone what to do because I am an idiot. Do not take life advice from me. So, but again, it's funny. Whoever this reading's for, whoever this reading gets to, the message will find its recipient. And there's a reason why I get these messages, and there's a reason why there's a reason why I'm saying the things that I say, and I don't have to understand, right? But the person who this message is intended for will get it and they will understand it. So yeah, I'm going to leave the reading there. That's all I have to say. Again, you're viewing this reading through your own lens, so it doesn't really... I found a lot of the time on the internet, it doesn't really matter what you say. People are going to believe what they want to believe because people have, prejudices that, mean that when they engage with news or when they engage with media, they're preconditioned to believe the things that they already believe. And people seek out things that validate the beliefs that they already have, and they're dismissive about the things that oppose those existing beliefs. So again, I am not the sort of person who is going to waste time or energy trying to change somebody's mind because I can't be asked. But let's see. I'm going to randomize the song and we'll see what you get. So whoever this reading's for, what's the last message, please? I'm tired. I'm tired, guys. Charity. Where have all the entrepreneurs gone? I was thinking this to myself, like, because all the businessmen today, like, in the past, sort of like Victorian times, and yes, this was propaganda, look at Roman times. They were building amphitheatres to entertain the masses. They were building, they were putting on shows. They were doing all this stuff to kind of like buy favour. But there was an investment in, like, social... Maybe there still is, it's just taken a different form, right? Because I'm like, where are the entrepreneurs? How are people benefiting society now? Because like in Victorian times, people had a really strong sense of like their religious beliefs, right? A lot of people went to church, a lot of people believed in God. And so you got a lot of entrepreneurs who would open up hospital wings. They would pay for a hospital wing to be built, or they would pay for a university wing to be built. And yes, they'd get a statue, and yes, they'd put the name on it, and yes, a lot of the time the money came from very unscrupulous places. But these entrepreneurs, these billionaires, were a benefit to society when they gave back in that way, when they had philanthropy. Where's the philanthropy now? Right? I don't think burning a rocket in the sky is benefiting humanity, at least not at this point. I don't know if promoting unnecessary tweakments to 13-year-olds on Instagram is necessary or beneficial. It just benefits the doctors that make money, right, from doing these surgeries. So what are the billionaires doing? What are the 1% doing to benefit society? Because I personally can't answer that. Maybe they are doing things, maybe having free apps that keep you connected, like Facebook, which, you don't have to pay to use. Maybe that it could be considered philanthropy. It keeps you in touch with your grandma. Isn't that a good thing? Maybe things like Facebook and Instagram are just the new amphitheaters, right? Yes, they're propaganda tools. Yes, they keep people connected. Yes, they provide entertainment for the masses. But is it philanthropy? I don't know. So the song that's playing is Charity by Skunk Anansie. Really love this song. I don't need your charity. I do. Like, if there's any billionaires out there, any of the 1% want to give me just 1 million, £1 million, I think I'll be pretty set with that. I think that'll be, I could do a lot with that, you know? That would benefit me greatly. I will take your charity, but don't expect anything in return because I'm unreliable. Charity by Skunk Anansi. Why do I sense benevolence? Oh, this is interesting. You stand tall at my great expense. Thick words of gratitude. What a price to pay. Stuck in my. What a price to play. It's making me think of like pay to play computer games. Stuck in my throat, I sell every word I say. I sell every word I say. But I don't want your charity twisting me around. I don't want your charity keeping me down. Why does your will keep burying, gorging much deeper than it's ever been? Rubbing still harder, salt on my hurt, licking my burns while I grovel in your dirt. But I don't want your charity twisting me around. You pity me with your tasteless gestures, gratitude for kind, but your bludgeoned, intentioned objectives are screwing with my mind. I don't want your charity keeping me down. Interesting. Thick words of gratitude, stand tall at my expense. Such a good song. I love that song so much. Yeah. Salt in my wounds. Kind of somebody who's, again, I am not naming names here. We've discussed a few characters in the public eye in this reading, but I don't know what my guides are trying to say or who they're talking about. It could be somebody that I've not mentioned, right? But just the concept, the idea of kind of, you get these people who are billionaires, these people who have like extreme amounts of wealth. You stand tall at my great expense. Where did that wealth come from? Why do we have so much poverty? Why do we have, so much homelessness, so many people using food banks, so many people in housing that's not suitable, so many parents who struggle to buy their kids school uniform or school lunches? Like, why is it that people have to work full time and yet still can't afford to buy a house? And it's not because they're spending money on avocado toast, right? It's because inflation has gone up a huge amount and the minimum wages have not kept up. And, energy bills are going up and the normal people are really struggling. And yet you have these billionaires literally burning money in the sky. And they stand tall at our great expense. And I like to think, I do like to think that if I was in a position where I had enough wealth to pay for everybody's cancer treatment for a year, or, in the entirety of America, or if I had enough wealth to end poverty or to do a huge amount of good, I like to think that I would do it. And I don't think I would do it by randomly interfering with right-wing politics for the lols with no consistency. I like to think that I would do some actual good that would be of benefit to mankind, because that's true Aquarian energy, right? That's the people that we should aspire to be. Where I don't think I would like to stand tall at the great expense of the collective. It confuses me. It really confuses me why people have so much money. It's like, well, why? What are you doing? Because honestly, you look at these people and they don't seem very happy, right? They don't seem content. They don't seem fulfilled. I'm not jealous of them. All right. And with that, I'm going to go. Take care of your faces, take care of your loved ones, check in with your grandma, check in with your elderly neighbours, give your kids a hug, pet your dog, go for a walk, take care of your mental health, get off the internet. Love yous. Bye.